Recording in progress.
Hello, welcome to episode number 35 of our Voices of Strength series, where we highlight victims of police homicide. And this week we are with Katrina Johnson. She is here to help share the story of her loved one. Katrina, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Katrina Johnson. I am the cousin of Charleena Lyles, who was killed in Seattle, Washington, by Seattle Police Department officers Jason Anderson and Stephen McNew.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you for being here. So this is a different type of story than one I've done. They're all heartbreaking, all equally heartbreaking. This one, she was a mother, she was killed, she was pregnant. Gosh, I want to start off with you sharing just about her, a little background on your cousin. She was a mother. Definitely want to highlight that for people to see that the loss that her children and her family are feeling.
So Charleena was 30 years old. She had just celebrated her 30th birthday, April 24th. She just Lena was the life of the party. She was always so giving, willing to give people her last. Her smile would light up a room. She was the mother of 4 and 1 on the way. And I just don't know that life is ever going to be the same, when stuff like this happens. And, you shouldn't call the police for help to report a burglary. And they joke and laugh about it because they know you have mental health issues and they don't take things like that seriously. And you end up dead. It didn't have to happen.
Gosh, Katrina, that's, it's hitting a lot of spots. One, we get a lot of the killings, mental health, people that are in a crisis or have mental health issues that they're dealing with. So you say they made fun of her after she called the police herself. Can you share what she called for and then what you know of?
So she recalled the police for help to report a burglary. I think she thought an ex had broken in and things like that. She's been known to have mental health issues and things like that. It's in the police system. So, because she had an incident maybe like a week or 2 prior to her death and things like that. And it was always in the system for 2 officers to be able to show up to address that. And in their dash cam footage and things like that from their cruiser, it shows them laughing. Like, is that the lady who said that somebody or the kids were going to morph into wolves or something? And I just keep thinking about that. I'm just thinking, like, if they'd have took my cousin's mental health seriously, if they'd have took their job seriously as police officers, she might still be here today. But because you didn't, you went up there not prepared, got yourself in a compromising position, and it resulted in 7 bullets being pumped into my cousin's 100-pound pregnant body. She was literally 100 pounds at her time of death, 14 weeks pregnant. Unacceptable by 2 6'2", 250-pound men. You
My goodness.
Anything else? And allegedly she had a paring knife. We don't even know if that's true or not.
Wow. So, just even hearing that they responded with that attitude, like no empathy, making fun of it. They're getting paid by our tax. They're being paid by the people, and then they're not even treating the people with respect. That's horrible. I think everybody, if they watch, everybody can relate. There's somebody that they know with a mental illness that they would hate to be treated or taunted like this.
Right. And, just because you're in the middle of a crisis, I mean, there's a whole global pandemic going on. Everybody is probably in a crisis right about now, given all the circumstances. And it doesn't mean that they should be condemned to their death, for having mental health issues and things like that. We need to do better. But clearly 911 needs to be taken out of the police departments because all they know how to do is react. They do not know how to respond. I know that there's social workers that deal with folks with mental health issues every day and they're not killing anyone. So,
Yep.
I'm just asking them to not make split second decisions, but make the best decision in a split second. And there's a difference between the two. And clearly they're incapable of doing that.
Yeah. So what was the first thing you heard? Well, first, how did you find out? And then if you can share, just repeat the first narrative that was out about your cousin, and then how the family found out, and just how that was.
It was so bizarre. Most of us didn't even know. We thought, I got woke up. I used to work nights. And so I had just went to sleep. And then my spouse kept trying to wake me up, and she kept telling me that something happened to my cousin. I was like, no. So I'm jolted out of my sleep to this crazy news, but we didn't know that my cousin had been killed by the police. We thought my cousin was killed by her ex-boyfriend, one of the fathers of her kids. We thought that that's what happened. The police were literally on the phone with my other cousin, telling her that they had a suspect in custody.
Wow.
We're thinking, okay. Some of the rest of us found out on social media. Her daughter found out on Snapchat because the neighbor Snapchatted her mom's dead body. And,
oh my gosh.
It was just bananas. They had already held like 1 or 2 press conferences, and family didn't know anything.
Wow.
We got to the scene and realized that the police had killed Charleena. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because then we're still trying to find the kids. Like, they had the kids in like these weird rooms, and like we couldn't find them. I don't know what was going on. I know that something just wasn't right, and many people just don't know. They don't understand. We don't know what further traumatization they did to my cousin's son, who was there. He was 11 at the time. He just said, I can't say nothing.
My gosh.
They would kill me. So we never asked no questions. What do you ask if he tells you that? What do you do?
So he was there when his mom was shot by the police?
Yeah, and 2 kids were literally right where she was. 2 of them. The youngest laid in a pool of my cousin's blood. It was that bad. They said that the police officer said that they had an out. Like, they could get out of the apartment, but they were concerned about my cousin's children. It is literally in the police report. And so your alternative to that is to pump her with 7 bullets and not knowing if one of those could have hit the kids. I'm confused. And not to mention, y'all shot her twice in the back.
My goodness. Gosh. Makes me sick, just like we hear stories of what they do to the families, and we hear like what adults, the grown-ups, can tell us, but just thinking what they did to the kids and what they do in general, but knowing her poor children, to be there for that, and then to be in their hands.
Yeah, 3 of the 4, they literally they put like stuff over their heads and stuff like that, because they had to step over my cousin's dead body to get out of the apartment. And the narrative that they pump to mainstream media is always, it was like, knife wielding woman. At one point they said she had 7 knives, but 5 of them were in the kitchen. I'm like, well, where do you keep your knives? I keep mine in the kitchen too. Like, it's just a lot. So you're just like fighting from literally the moment they're killed, and it's so tiring.
My goodness. Gosh, that's a lot. Like, the whole time you're explaining things, my arm, my hair, the hairs, and just the chills in my body. It's chilling to even hear this.
I'm still at a loss. Like, I keep trying to rationalize it in my head, and I just keep coming back to it. Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I really need them to explain to me why this had to happen, and why it's okay to, because they called for a taser, but he was decided he was going to be lazy and not take his taser because he didn't want to change the battery. So you went out there ill prepared to do your job as a public servant of which we are paying you, and it resulted in my cousin being killed. Unacceptable.
And I just want to repeat for anybody who may be hopping in late when they watch this, anything, just a reminder, she was a mother. She had a baby in her belly, and the bullet, one of the bullets you shared.
It literally went through and shredded through her womb. One bullet killed the baby. That's literally what the medical examiner said. It shredded through her womb.
And no transparency, no accountability.
No transparency, no accountability. We still don't even have the basic facts as to why did this happen, and what were the alternatives. I can just read the police report and it doesn't make any sense. And 4 years later, we're still fighting for answers. We're still in a pursuit of justice, and justice may not look like officers going to jail, and I really want them to, but what are you going to do differently? What are you going to do to where you don't find yourself in a compromising situation and you're not killing anybody else, or you're not snatching someone else's loved one away from them? That's what I want to know. Otherwise, how are you going to be, why are we paying people to be like serial killers? And we're talking about North Precinct, they killed Shay Taylor the year before, and then killed Yosia Falatogo the year in 2019, like a year or two after Lena. Like, they're notorious for bad behavior in North Precinct. Why are we allowing this?
So they're they're known to kill people and get away with it. And then just that behavior that, that in the beginning when they responded her, just bad behavior all around. And if there's no accountability, and then how many more people are they doing this to? Doing wrong things to?
Right. I mean, and that's half of, the battle. And that's why, myself and my family are fighting so hard. It's like, we can't bring Lena back, right? But I would never wish this pain on anybody else. Like, it's just like you wake up and it's almost like a dream every single day. And then you have to snap yourself back into reality and realize, oh no, like this really happened. Like, they're not coming back. And we still don't even know why. There's still like this, like, you don't have that closure, right? Because you don't even know what happened.
Yeah. And like you said, if you could read the reports and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, their pictures, it's flawed, it's wrong, and no accountability, no justice.
Right. It's hard to stomach the fact that you could have left the apartment, you could have left her in there with her kids. There's been nothing in her reports that said that she has harmed her children or anything else like that. But you didn't because you were worried about her kids. And so the alternative is to shoot bullets into her body, into the apartment, in front of the children. Somebody got to help me understand, because I don't understand it, and I've been trying for years now.
I just keep thinking about like what those kids went through that day.
I can't imagine. And, they think that they're young, her third baby, she has Down syndrome, but she still knows what happened that day, and the youngest was 1 at the time, but now, he's saying, open up the door, my mommy's outside bleeding. Like, what do you say to that? Like, they know. Even though he was 1 year old, they know something bad happened that day. They can't unsee that. And then how is that going to affect their mental health for the rest of their lives, knowing that their mom was killed by the police and they're supposed to be officer friendly, and supposed to be protecting the public. I mean, what do I tell? What do I even tell my own kids?
Yes, the kids part, it's, you know, it, they're the ones that don't get seen as much. People don't think about them as much. A lot of times people think about, the mothers. And of course, us being mothers, we know, but the children, like, we can't even process this shit.
Right.
So
And we're
it's,
expecting them to process it and then be okay when we're still
we're
trying
not.
to process it, and we are definitely not okay. You know, it's a tall task, and I don't think that there's enough services. And they don't even label our loved ones as victims. They want to make them suspects, and they call them suspects, and they didn't even have due process. Like, you don't know that they were a suspect of anything. There was no due process. She didn't commit a crime. So you don't get victim services or anything else like that, and it's just not right.
So much to it. So much to it. The kids, yeah, once again, no victim services because they're suspects. They're killed by police.
Right.
We can't get help.
None. The only help that we get is from one another, right? Because other impacted families, we become family, and don't, we don't know how to navigate this. We are building this plane and flying it at the same time by trial and error because someone's gone through something and we haven't, and so we're able to help one another in that way. And if it had not been for fellow impacted families, and the outpouring of support by community, I don't know where we would be right now. I really don't. And I mean, I'm just grateful. But there are families that don't get a lot of support, and we have to make sure that we are lifting them up too.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. That's definitely one thing that brought Voice of Strength forward is those families that don't know how or just can't still because they're so hurt still or just don't have support. So
Yeah.
it's stuck, broken. And then like you said, how do you navigate through this? There's no right way. There's no way like to do it. We have to roll with it and get the help that we can. In the form of other families, that really helps. That experience that we all share. I wanted to ask, so how you said community showed up. So how did the community react to this, especially her being a woman in her own home and a pregnant woman? How did Seattle?
There was an outpouring of support from community all over, even in other states. I think before we even had a rally or anything like that, they were already marching for Charleena in New York and in Atlanta. And, I think when we had our rally, I think there was maybe 4,000 people that showed up.
Wow.
They got so tired of they raised the bridge so we couldn't even go any further, and we were just met with like a line of officers with like batons and everything like that, and I'm like looking down at I think at the time my daughter might have been like 14, and I'm like, if it gets dicey, I need you to get to the sides because I don't know what might happen today, but community has always been there. I've had a lot of support from professional football player Michael Bennett. He held a big fundraiser for our family, and the shirts I wear that say "I am Charleena" were designed by Michael Bennett. And community seems to hold up well. Like, you came to that event last year. We had I think it was about 12 to 1,500 people showed up out there. It's still one of the highest profile cases in Washington State. So anytime something happens, we're going to see my cousin's name, picture, story in the news. So it's just like ripping open that wound all over again every time somebody else is a victim to police use of deadly force.
And sadly, it has happened after her.
Oh, several times over. Several times.
And
over.
I've seen you out there supporting other families as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, from the get-go, we were supporting other families because I think 6 days, 6 days after Lena was killed, Giovanni Joseph McDade was killed by Kent Police Department. And I grew up with Giovanni's dad, Giovanni, in Bellevue, Washington. So it was really close to home and stuff like that. And then, some of those cases weren't as high profile as Lena's. So it was just like when you show up for somebody, you can help shine a light on their case so that they can get the answers that they're looking for. And that's kind of what my family's been doing, showing up for other people and just using this terrible tragedy to get their stories out there that might not otherwise get out there. Because it's really, at the end of the day, it's really not all about Lena. There's no glory in this. I mean, you don't become a superstar. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it's not where we want to be, not what we wanted to do with our lives.
I'd rather be doing anything else. Anything else.
Yeah. And I think that's great that you guys use the fact that you guys did get community support more high profile, use that and help others that aren't. I think that's great. And just part of what we need to do for each other, for the other families, help get our stories.
Yeah, I think if more people did that, I understand why it doesn't happen, but you just got to take self out of it, and you realize at the end of the day, it's a system that they say is broken, but it's operating the way it was intended to operate because we weren't supposed to be seen as human. That's why they dehumanize us and criminalize us. And so you have to be able to support and stand up for other people. And in the long run, it helps build a lasting legacy for your loved one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask, I don't think I've ever asked you actually, were you aware of how the severity of police brutality and killings prior to your cousin's death? Or if not, what were your feelings towards police?
I was aware. Everybody saw what happened to Michael Brown and then what happened to Freddie Gray. And I was like, man, I want to be out there protesting and things like that. I didn't realize, when I thought that, a couple of years later that I would be out there on the front lines. I've always known because I've had interactions with police, but I still thought that there was some justice in this system. And I realized fairly quickly that there was not. When we sat down with the deputy prosecuting attorney, and before the investigation was even finished, he told me the officers wouldn't be charged. And I'm sitting there like, well, wait a minute. You just said the investigation wasn't done. So how do you know this already? Like, I don't understand. I knew then that it was going to be an uphill battle. And I knew in order to get justice, which may not come in the form of people going to jail, I had to start changing laws. And that's kind of what I've been doing ever since.
Can you share some more about that and how when you started that, just where it's at now?
So, at the same time Lena was being killed, they were trying to pass legislation called Initiative 940, which would be like de-escalation, rendering first aid, and police accountability. And so we we got together with a group that was like people from everywhere in this coalition, native tribes, grassroots organizations, and we all came together and we actually got Initiative 940 passed. So we had one of the first police accountability bills. California came after us with AB 392. And they kind of took some of the stuff that we did and then they took it a step further. But just this last past legislative session, I believe that Washington State has the most progressive police accountability bills in the nation. And we banned no-knock warrants to hot pursuits. We have decertification for police officers. We went in this legislature. We have a completely independent investigative body so that police aren't investigating police. So that agency will be set up. I was on the governor's task force and helped with that. So it's just been endless work and still, grassroots organizing and supporting families on top of all that.
Nice. That's that's good for the families to hear about this too, because everybody has impacted families. Like we all have our little different roles. I see people that are doing the work, filling in different spots. For me personally, I did work with some of the California legislative changes, the AB 392, but further on, I couldn't sit in those meetings anymore.
Yeah.
And just some of these people that were supposed to be in the same space, I told the other people in the group that I'm like, I can't sit there, but I trust you guys to relay other families that are willing to sit in. And I'm like, I'll talk to families. I'll do interviews with families. And I talk to a lot of families one-on-one. So I think that's great that you're out there doing that. And is the decertification, is that a newer one or has that?
We just were able to get that passed in some House bills and things like that. So we have House Bill 1054, House Bill 1310. We've got 1267. We have Senate Bill 5263. Where they can't criminalize us without due process because then you can't sue. So we got that overturned. And that's called the felony bar statute. We were putting in some work.
Sounds like it.
Now we got to go. We have to go over after that qualified immunity now. But one thing at a time. But everybody has their niche. Doing legislative stuff. It was 107-day session. It was grueling. I was tired of everybody by the end of that. Okay. And I was fighting that. I was doing that through, I had COVID.
Oh gosh.
So, but if it helps any other family, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But I really just get my joy from just being able to be there to support other families, stand beside them, cry with them, hug them,
Yeah.
whatever they need.
Yeah, that means a lot. It means a lot. It really does, just for someone to support, especially through something like this, especially for the ones who may have not gotten it.
Yeah. And, there's even bigger, people don't realize that police violence is still part of gun violence. And we have an issue with gun violence right now, as well as police brutality. And we've got to figure it out because our young people are dying in the streets. And if the young people aren't dying in the streets, then the police are killing the rest of us. So it's brutal and I'm tired.
Yeah. You 2014, 17 is also my brother's year. It's been around the same. It's tiring.
2017 was a terrible year. Your brother, Cordell Handy, it just so many. I'm just like, And then you think about some of the people that have been in the trenches doing this work for 20 plus years, like Marion Gray Hopkins. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just like, I don't know how you guys been doing it.
Heartbreaking. I think about them too. I actually, before you said that, that's what I was just thinking in my head. And then like these families who've been here for a lot longer. And are we going to be here, 20 years from now still? Or there
Yeah,
better be some damn
probably.
changes.
If they're still killing people, then yeah, I'm pretty sure we will be. I mean, we weren't asked to do this. We were dragged into it. I don't see you or me leaving until they abolish them or they stop killing people. They want to do something.
Real change.
But then the flip side of passing laws is the law enforcement get upset. So they're throwing a hissy fit right now. And so now they're just like, well, we don't know what to do, so we're not going to respond to any calls. So now they're just doing a derelict of duty. Like they're just not responding. They're like, oh, we couldn't pursue the murder suspect with his shoe that's off, and we have eyewitnesses that said this is the person because the law changed. So basically you're telling me whatever you were trained to do as a law enforcement officer, what are we paying you for if you're not doing public safety? I'm confused.
Yeah.
Do we need police? It's making me really, I'm like, do we need you all? How about we take those millions of dollars and the community come up with a way to police one another? Because clearly you guys don't want to do your job anymore.
Yeah. It's crazy. I have when you're saying, do we need police? I have a friend, I was just talking to him. He's in the UK and I already know this, but reminded me how the police don't carry guns, how the police are actually like have to speak respectfully to people, how it's just so different. He also has lived in the US too. So just sharing the comparisons, I'm like, what is wrong with our country? And why are we full of violence and anger towards us, towards our people?
Well, I mean, it goes back 400 plus years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't seeing Black and brown and indigenous people. The police were slave catchers, right? So the laws and everything wasn't built for us, right? And so that's what we're seeing. We're just seeing outright racism playing out every single day. And that doesn't exclude just because, there are Black officers on the police force and they kill people too. Because you're brought up in a culture where the blue line supersedes your Blackness or whatever other race you are. And that's why they're like, oh, it's just one bad apple. Is it really just one bad apple? Because if there's just one bad apple and you see that bad apple doing something, you don't say nothing, is it really just one bad apple? I mean, I'm just saying. I worked alongside police, so I mean, they can't run that game on me. I worked alongside them for a year and a half, 2 years. The same police department that actually killed my cousin.
Wow.
Seattle Police Department. So you can't listen. And I always treated folks with respect, and I demanded respect in return. And do I think that all police officers are bad? No, I don't. However, the system is very, very, quote unquote, broken. And I think that even if you wanted to do the right thing, you're not, because you're going to wonder if somebody's going to be protecting you when you're out there in the field. So there you have it.
There you have it. I agree with that. I could tell people, no, I don't think every police is out there trying to kill and abuse people. I don't think that, but what you said.
Yeah, it's like, even if you're not all bad, if you are allowing wrongdoing to happen, then what? And it doesn't start at the rank and file officer. You got to go to the head of the snake. You know what I mean? You got to go way up the chain. And, I think that they're used to operating that way, and people go in with this idea that they're going to be able to change, and they're going to be able to change the way police do things and whatever. And then they quickly get sucked into, oh no, I'm stuck in this and there's no way out, and I need to conform because I might end up being killed.
Yeah.
And, you know, the prosecutor, the whole thing with the prosecutors that work hand in hand with the police, so you can't get any justice for your loved one. And then, you know, if you do go after them, then they're not going to, you know, the police are the one that show up and things like that. They're not going to help you on other cases that you need law enforcement there for. And not to mention, they threaten prosecutors and everything like that too. So it's just it's a cycle of complete madness, and it just needs to be completely dismantled.
Yes.
And every state, every jurisdiction needs independent prosecutors that are outside of, they have no ties to any local police department. Otherwise, our loved ones will never get any justice.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that and breaking that down. People don't realize these things. And just what you shared too, just to start, the whole start of that is conflict of interest. Hello, they shouldn't even go further. But like, that's why we can't get justice or any fair investigations.
No. And they, you know, I found out by doing this governor task force, like they do it on purpose. Like I knew they did it on purpose, but when you think about it, police officers investigating police officers, because our attorney general found that it literally, police officers cannot investigate other police officers, no matter what jurisdiction it is. You know, and you know, they have to gather evidence and stuff like that. But do you know if there is, if they don't do their stuff properly, like if there isn't, if they don't, when they're transferring evidence and things like that, if it's not done properly, that within itself means that case can't even be brought before, because a defense attorney, if they're going to shred that, they do it on purpose. I realized that talking to prosecutors, I'm like, so what you're saying to me is if the chain of custody is not done properly, that it is almost impossible for a prosecutor to bring this case. So all that officer has to do is not follow chain of custody. That's it.
And then say, yeah.
And our loved ones will, their case will never see the light of day. Or it's not going to go anywhere. It's just that easy. And they do it day in and day out, and they know that. That's why I'm like, it has to be completely independent from police. They literally cannot investigate themselves. You cannot trust them to gather evidence. You cannot trust them to follow chain of custody. It's just that bad.
Yeah.
But there's only one bad apple. Remember that now.
My gosh. Yeah, that one just, it's so old now. It's like, I mean, it's been old and it's common sense.
Right. And, you know, I just, listen, I have seen the craziest things, and people think, you know, Washington State is real progressive. Yeah, no, we're not that progressive. We just look like we are because we have Google here running up everything, spending millions of dollars on glass circle buildings and things like that. But the bottom line is, Washington State kills a lot of folks every year. And anytime you can have one officer that has killed several people and nothing has happened, with 65 excessive use of force complaints, I don't know about anybody else, but if you kill more, 1, 2, 3 people, I call you a serial killer.
Right.
And there's a serial killer still on the Auburn Police Department. Killed Jesse Saray, Brian Scranton, and Isaiah Obed. You interviewed Elaine. I do a lot of work with you. And I'm just like, I don't understand. It's a serial killer. Like you.
Yeah.
Help me.
That.
Get the badge.
It's just like, how does that even happen? Multiple. And actually now, since, we had Elaine and some more of the family members on, and since doing this show, just number 35 we're on, but there's been more, like a handful, maybe like 3 or 4 of them that are multiple killers. Yeah. One of them also had killed 5 people.
How do you kill 5 people and not be like, How do you kill 5 human beings? Well, that's if you consider them human beings, right? How do you kill 5 human beings and you not have any sort of kind of mental issues around that? Because I'm like, what kind of mental health treatment are these officers who are killing multiple people? Like, what is happening there? Because how are you fit for duty and you're killing multiple people? What I mean, is there something in the training? Are they being trained to be assassins? I'm confused. How's that promoting public safety? I thought they were there for public safety. I don't get it, Marissa. I'm just trying to figure it out.
And then they're still, even with the serial killer ones, they're still being hailed as heroes.
Right. And the first thing you see when our loved one is killed, I'm gonna tell you what gets me. When they kill our loved ones, the first thing you hear on the news is the officer is shaken up, but he's all right.
Yeah.
Somebody is dead. Why am I hearing about the officer being all right? Of course he's all right. He done killed somebody. What do you mean? I'm like, what?
You're right. I like every single one, they do write some shit like that, or like, oh, officer faced minor injuries.
Oh, and he's okay. He's shaken up. They get to go home and be escorted, and they don't have to give a statement. Let me hear you kill somebody. And let me tell you, they are not letting me go home. They're not giving me a McDonald's and a smoothie to go chill and relax for the night before they're taking my statement.
Gosh, it's so sick. Like all the details to our loved ones, everything, but the ones, like we have so much in common. It's like, hey, you guys really have it mapped out what you guys do when you kill. They have all these different things, and that's just one of them.
Right. I don't know. There's so much that I try to wrap my head around and try to understand, and so I can try to make it better for my babies, for your babies. Like our kids still have to grow up in this world. Are they gonna see my baby? He's my baby, but he's 6'3", 240 pounds. He looks like a man, but he's my baby. Yeah. He's only 19 years old. They're not gonna see him as a baby. I'm worried. I can't even breathe until he comes home every night. Yeah. Can't even breathe. You'll be there soon, especially when they start driving. You ain't gonna be able to breathe. You ain't gonna be able to sleep.
I think about it sometimes. I'm already like, oh my gosh.
It is a real thing. It is a real thing. And it doesn't matter how many times you go over what to do if you ever get pulled over, because you can comply and still die. Philando Castile, like you can do everything right and still not make it home.
Yeah, and we see it. We see there's video proof. There's every day.
Routine traffic stops. Why are people dying on routine traffic stops?
Yeah.
I'm just so disgusted. And I thought that when Lena was killed, it just couldn't get any worse. But when I woke up that morning and clicked on that link and I saw what happened to George Floyd, it literally took my breath away. Like I just saw pure evil at hand. And you can't unsee that. When I clicked that link, I did not know I was going to be watching somebody be murdered right before my eyes. And I haven't recovered from that, let alone my own cousin.
Yeah, that's another thing. Seeing it all the time, seeing George Floyd, seeing and hearing and just knowing all of this is continuing every single day.
Every day.
Re-traumatizing.
It is re-traumatizing. And I'm just like, you just can't unsee it. And they don't realize every time you hear about, or every time as an impacted family, you see another person ushered into this family that nobody wants to be in, it just breaks your heart. And then the mental, effects of having to do this and deal with this, like, ain't nobody asked us how we holding up or what our mental health is looking like, or they don't even care. It's
No,
yeah.
we get the opposite. A lot of, well, some people, know what's up, but people still look at, I know, me and stuff, and people speaking out as like we're just mad or just angry. They're not seeing that we're really speaking up for human life, human
Yeah.
civil right, our civil rights, everything. We're actually doing something that everybody should be doing.
Right. And it's not even, you're not even mad anymore because you're turning that pain into purpose so that it doesn't happen to anyone else. But it's just like, when is everybody else going to wake up? And when is everybody else going to realize at the end of the day, you can be white and be killed. You can be black and be killed. You can be pregnant, be killed. You can be man or woman, child, Tamir writes, like, it doesn't, there is no boundaries to this. That is unchecked power. And when power is unchecked, it is abused. And they are abusing it because they know that there is no accountability and that there is no ramifications for their actions. So why not? If I could do anything I wanted to do and get away with it, wouldn't you at least try it? That I would kill people though.
I know. I was just thinking, if we're killers, if I wanted to be a killer, I would be a cop. So,
I mean, if you wanted to be a killer, then and then I'm just like, where are they finding these people? Have they had any social skills, or is it the person that got picked on in high school and really didn't know how to interact? So then he gets a badge and a gun and he goes out and he wants to, because he had been bullied, wants to be the bully, or is it just people that hate a specific demographic or a specific ethnic group of people and wants to flex power against them? Like, what is it? And then we just start talking about the historic aspects of it, all of that comes into play. But it's just like, that's why I'm just like, I don't know. I'm really getting closer to like just dismantle.
Yeah.
There's no reform left. Like, you can't reform something that was set and that was, built and set upon the disenfranchisement of groups of people. And it was designed that way.
Yeah. You know what? So I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe when I first met you in person back then, were you about the reform more? Or was that?
I mean, I am, the stuff I work on is police reform. I've been doing it for a while, even internationally and stuff like that. But I am leaning that I'm just like, I'm starting to think like, maybe we really can't reform them, because we just passed these laws and they are throwing a fit. They're like, oh, we can't do anything about that car going the wrong way on the freeway because, we don't want to do hot pursuits. So you're trying to tell me that you're just going to leave this car going the wrong way on the freeway and people are going to die? So this is where they're at. They're literally, you can read story after story. There are incidents that are happening in Washington State. And because we changed those laws, they're like, well, we can't do our job because they changed the laws. So we're going to do nothing at the expense of the public. That is literally what is happening. And I am utterly disgusted at the derelict of duty and their hissy fit that they're throwing like they're toddlers.
Crazy. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Because I don't know, I remembered that about like, but I get what you're saying, you're like fed up, trying, it's kind of, I'm kind of at the point too. I've been at the point where it's rebuilding, abolishing and rebuilding. Some people hear abolishing, they're like, no, we need police, we need to be protected, but the point comes in, we got to be able to open our minds, creative minds. That means we create something.
Right. If you give us $400 million. I
Something
bet you
great.
we'll come up with something great.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, because if we're going to pay them and they're not even going to do the bare minimum of the training that we paid for, that the school that they've been put through and all this, they tout that training that they have. If none of that is helping you do your job every day, then what exactly are my tax dollars being spent on?
Yeah. What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
So having different families, and I get to hear like different states, different what's being worked on, and I'm like, shit, everybody's working so damn hard for the little things, like in their county, their state. We need some federal shit like across the board.
Man, that's all politics right there. Let me tell you, that George Form policing bill that they're trying to get passed. These police officers and them Republicans and some of them Democrats, they are not trying to give a budge on that qualified immunity, because that right there is what's keeping them out of prison right now, and it has to go.
Has to go.
Yes. I think a lot of families are descending upon Washington, D.C. August 28th to demand, like, we need to. We have, it shouldn't be, my state has the strongest police accountability. We need something that's going to protect everybody in every single state. And until we get that, we're going to be in the trenches, Marissa.
Yep.
It's just that simple.
Yeah. And then okay, I want to ask you too, because I know you've been in here, you've been, and you care about the families. There are a lot of families that watch the show regularly, and like a lot of them are newer ones too, like this year, barely hitting a year soon. So if there's anything you could share with the families, the newer ones.
I would just tell you, don't give up. Keep fighting, because your loved one's life mattered. And you're not alone. And reach out, because there are impacted families all over the nation that are willing to be boots on the ground and support you and your family. If you need me, all you got to do is find me, message me, call me, and I will be there. And just know that police narrative is not the totality of your loved one's life. Mm-hmm. And you need to make sure you have their narrative, and you talk about who they are, and you turn that pain into purpose, and you don't give up, because it is a war of attrition, and you are not alone. It's just that simple.
Yep.
It sounds simple, but it's not. But,
Thank you. Gosh, and it for me, like, even having to share with these new families, hey, let's share some advice. It fucking sucks.
It really sucks, and you have to share your advice, because they don't know what they're gonna do. And when you don't know what to do, having someone that's already gone through it to be there to talk to you, or to stand by your side, to maybe even help you until you're able to figure out what you need to do. We are out there. Mm-hmm. We are ready. We are willing to be boots on the ground. We are ready, because, we always had that saying, families are the front line. We are the experts of our experience. Can't nobody tell us about our experience. We are the experts. I don't care who got a PhD. You ain't got a PhD in this unless your loved one has been killed. So until that, I ain't trying to hear it.
Thank you. There's a lot of people that need to hear that message right there.
Right. And then you fake activists and advocates trying to pimp families. That's not going to work either. I'm sorry. I just had to, I had to
no, and that's
because it gets a bit much, because they're just traumatizing families even more by trying to take advantage of them and profit off of their loss of their loved ones. And I just can't stomach it. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm. It needs to be said. And from us families too. I know sometimes families, like don't want to say something, but there are a lot of activists and organizations and just groups that are doing families wrong.
Yeah, and people getting money and not funneling that back into the people that are actually out there doing the work, into impacted families and supporting impacted families in a meaningful way, the way you're supposed to. Shame on you as well. I don't
Yeah.
Call me if you want to, because we can talk about it, because I'm willing to say whatever, because it's the truth. It's downright ridiculous. I've heard a lot about some of them Black Lives Matter chapters that's out here running amok. Not gonna work. Not gonna work. Getting money off the backs of our loved ones being killed, not gonna work. Acting like you are supporting impacted families and really not. You're just out there trying to make a name for yourself, not gonna work.
And anybody in between, not gonna work.
Not gonna work. So I didn't know I was gonna come out here and the shots are fired, but I mean, I'm just tired. I'm tired of seeing us being taken advantage of in our most vulnerable time of our lives, for someone else's gain. I just cannot stomach it. I can't, Marissa. I really can't. It just burns me up to my core.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said earlier, these things need to be said. Unfortunately, I feel like that message can go to a ton of different people. And I hope people keep saying it and keep speaking up for the families, and not just the families speaking up for us. People see the whole picture.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just making sure that whether it's a high profile case or not, guess what? Whether high profile or not, your loved one is still dead. Their blood was still red, and they ain't coming back. There is nothing glamorous about this, and we need to stand in the gap for one another. Period.
Period. That's I didn't, what did you say earlier? Shots fired, but I'm tired, and it's real, and it rhymed. um so this has been a great talk. These and we never really know where these shows, what all is going to be said, because there's so much to be said, but we hit some great things, and you shared a lot that from you, what you've learned from experience.
I mean, you'd have thought I've been in the trenches for longer than the 4 years that I've been doing it, but I mean, these 4 years have felt like 40, to be perfectly honest. It's a hard pill to swallow, knowing that your life will never be the same again, and you had no control in that. But every day I just get up, giving God the glory and the honor and all the praise, and just try to be a better person, and making some meaningful changes, for the future, for the ones that are coming behind us. Because we may not see it in our lifetime, but maybe we'll laid enough footprints for them to pick up the mantle and continue to bring about change.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Even if we don't see it, it's helping for the kids and our grandkids and whatever, so on, for people.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, if we didn't have no hope, I mean, I don't know where we would be.
Gosh. Yeah. Okay, so before we close up, is there anything else you would like to share about Charleena or the fight? Anything?
Just stay tuned. We are going to have a fact-finding investigation, where we get to ask the jury if we think the officers did something, or if they were criminally liable. Never been able to happen before, but
Wow.
because reform changes, we get to ask those questions, and the
Wow.
jury decide that. And so inquests are getting ready to start up pretty soon, and continue to fight for her and for other impacted families. And Charleena's life matters. She left behind 4 babies. And I won't stop until I get some semblance of justice and some answers and understanding into what happened the day you guys murdered my cousin. She wasn't just killed. She didn't just die. You murdered her.
Murder.
And murder is murder is murder is murder. Period.
Yep. 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 Okay, Katrina. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and definitely keep us posted on that. And it's different. It's interesting. Like, what the hell is going to come of that? How is that going to go? So keep me posted. We can help share anything you guys got going on our pages too. So
thank you so
it was
much.
good seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Katrina. I'll see you in person, hopefully one day again, not too far.
Absolutely. Call me and I'll be there.
Okay. All right. You take care.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye.